Hello, and welcome to Saw Dog Woodworking. If this is your first time checking out the channel, I appreciate you coming. I hope you like it. And if you do, please subscribe, like. As of this morning, I have 57 followers. And my goal for the new year is to get over, 100,000. That'd be awesome. I'm realistic though, so at least over 100. Made it to 57 in 4 months, 3 months? So we're getting some traction here, and so to those of you that are returning, I appreciate you. Today's video is going to be a little different. I've changed up the format. I got a little feedback from some friends that maybe I'm going a little too fast on some of the parts of it. You can't really see what I'm doing. And the reasoning for a lot of that was just hours upon hours of raw footage when I was building all of this. This new piece, the piece that I'm doing today, I could actually know where I wanted it to go, and I could go from start to finish and really kind of let the video flow a little bit better and explain a little bit better what I'm doing. So I hope you like the new format. Always open to change and new ideas, so let me know what you think. Today for me is New Year's Eve, so I am on the cusp of 2026, and it occurred to me a year ago, I set a resolution to quit teaching and start Saw Dog, and it came to fruition, and now I'm depending on you, and I hope 100,000, just saying, 100,000, 100 million? That's ridiculous. Anyway, let's talk about today's piece that we're going to be working on, because I know that's why you're here to begin with. The piece behind me is really special because, for many reasons. It is the first piece that I've been commissioned to do as a professional. This wasn't a hobbyist piece. This wasn't me trying to build furniture for my house because we're broke. This was something that somebody wanted. They had an idea, and I get to put it together. And what makes it special for me, on top of it being my first piece for my new business, is it's for two really great people. I met my friend Phil at UMass back in 96. So we have been friends a very long time, and I've known his parents by proxy since then. This piece is for his parents. They have been nothing but kind to me throughout the years. Great advice. When Phil and I moved off campus into our first apartment, they'd show up and they'd always have enough food for just all us poor bachelors living in that house. So really grateful to them, and it's ironic and fitting that as I was starting my journey into adulthood in my early 20s, they were there, and now that I'm 50 and starting this new business, they're also there. So really important piece to me. And so to get into the piece itself, it is, I'll give you first the materials. What did I use? 3/4 inch plywood for most of the box. It's paint grade, so if you want to do this without it being painted, I recommend getting a nicer looking plywood, something that might take a stain, or even solid woods for this. Where I knew it was going to be painted, and to keep the cost down on it, I went with paint grade plywood. Still really good, nice and sturdy, but a little bit more cost effective, and it paints up nice. So there is edge banding on the front here, which I actually do talk about in the video. If you haven't seen edge banding before, I'll show you how to do that. The doors are made out of, what do I make the doors out of? Poplar. So the poplar, it's better than pine. There's not much that isn't better than pine on a lot of things. I do love pine, don't get me wrong, but poplar is going to take paint a lot better, a little stronger, and I've used it for doors before, and it does really well. So the panel itself is 1/4 inch plywood. Excuse me, had this cold going on forever. Down at the base here, I'll bring a picture up so you can see it. It has 4 large doors. Inside those are coat hooks, and then up top you have some storage. Down below there is a piece of decorative maple that you can see, kept natural, and then shoe cubbies to go along there. So It is really nice. It's going to be for an entryway. They have a new home, and it's going to help keep jackets and shoes and things neatened up. So that is the rundown. I say we get into the video and I'll show you how I built it. All right, let's go. To get started, I want to break this plywood down into more manageable pieces. I'm using a online program I found. It helps kind of set up how you can get the most out of each piece of plywood. Before, when I would do this, it took hours just trying to figure out each little piece, where it was going to go, how I can have the absolute least amount of waste on these pieces of plywood. I really liked it. I'm not going to plug it. As I said, I just looked it up online. It was a free, I think it's called a cut list optimizer, and you can pay for these and they'll let you save some of your old projects, do more projects in one day. I think this one I found only lets me do 1 or 2 projects a day or a month or something, which was fine for the time. As I get more busy, I'll probably actually invest in one because it was really helpful. So all I'm doing here is just using my track saw just to break this down, like I said, into smaller pieces. I don't have an in-feed table for my table saw yet. I probably should make one. I think this would make it a lot easier. Oh, look at that. It must have a happy little tune going on there. But the investment in this track saw was absolutely invaluable. It took no time at all to break this down. And I want to reiterate, I'm not cutting to exact sizes here on most of it. I'm using the table saw to get it down a little more finite. I like how the track saw works, but when it's really long like that and I have to move the saw, I would worry that it would move a little bit. This gives me a nice clean cut. So I'm going to run all my pieces through the table saw, the sides, all the dividers, and everything else. As you can see, I always use some sort of push stick. This table saw has 0 safety on it. It does not care about my fingers and would probably just tell me to rub sawdust in them and move on with my life if I ever do cut my fingers off. So as you can see, this is where an in-feed table would have come in super helpful. Even though I broke it down a little bit, the piece is still kind of cumbersome, but it worked. Once I get everything broken down, I'm still breaking stuff down. Okay, let's watch. So I mark all my pieces. You're going to be cutting a lot of pieces on this. I want to make sure I know each one. I have my cut list in front of me on my clipboard, and I just want to make sure that after everything is cut to size, I know which is which. So I've set a stop block here on my miter saw. I'll show you how to set up a miter stop block in a minute. And I just want to get everything cut to size. So this is lengthwise now. But you can see that stop block really helps a lot because I can make multiple cuts of the same size and they're going to come out exactly the same. Where before I would have to waste a little bit of time doing multiple measurements, marking it, cutting it. This way I can just go straight up. This is the dado that I am going to be cutting for the back. I want it just loose enough that it'll slide a little bit, but not so tight that it's going to get stuck, but not so loose that it flops around. Once I'm happy with my test fit, I take it back over to the table saw and start running it through. I make 2 passes. This is only a 1/4 inch, so I didn't bother putting a dado stack in there. I just made 1 cut, then moved it over the slightest bit and made the 2nd cut. You may see that I've come in 3/4 of an inch from the edge, and the reason I do that is I'm going to put some supports in later. You'll see those. From there, I take it to my pocket hole jig. I love this machine, or not this machine, but this tool. I use it all the time, and I've strategically placed these holes so that you're not going to be seeing them. So this will be at the top of the cabinet, and then there are more at the bottom of the cabinet, and those will be completely covered. It's either going to be at the top, where it'll be near the ceiling, or it'll be on the bottom that's actually going to attach to the base. As you can see, my ceiling is not tall enough, so I get to do a little bit on the floor. Knees on concrete, always a winning combination. In the introduction, I mentioned that I was going to be doing some edge banding, so I'm getting that set up in my vise. This is edge band. It's a heat activated glue on the back and just a veneer on the front, and you can see in a minute that it's going to really neaten up the layers of the plywood. Those, yes, we're going to be painting this, but those will just absorb paint and it doesn't look great. This gives it a nice clean finish. It's real easy to work with, cuts with just a regular pair of scissors. What I like to do on longer pieces like this is take just some painter's tape. I glue one end down just to hold it in place. As you can see, it's kind of curly. If I don't tape this, it really makes it a little more difficult, kind of flops all over the place. This makes it easier to get a nice straight line. I've taken an old iron. We were getting rid of this one. It was starting to finally die. I don't recommend using any iron you're going to use clothes on. Some of the glue can get onto the iron and ruin it, and ruin your clothes. So this is on a cotton setting. It calls for a high heat iron. I set mine all the way up and I was actually getting some scorch marks on the veneer, on the edge band. So I dialed it back just a little bit to make it so it wasn't giving me a burn. But as you can see, it's just nice and slow, straight down. Doesn't really take a long time. And once that's glued on, it's permanent. And I just moved on to the smaller pieces, and then I get into sanding. I'm going to skip all the sanding. You understand. It takes a long time. I'm going to make a little 1/2 inch mark on the front. This is the bottom of the base, and I want a toe kick to go on there, but I want a 1/2 inch indent for that toe kick, just to give it a little bit of a decorative look, so it's not flush with the front. And I'm going to glue all that up. You saw that I had pocket holes already drilled for that, and once it's all glued, I'm just going to screw it right to the bottom of the base. Obviously nice side out. There's no edge band or anything on this. This is upside down right now, so once I flip that around, where I'm clamping is actually the very bottom of this whole thing. I love using clamps. Pocket holes have a tendency to want to move your work. Sometimes it'll make it walk, or your piece isn't exactly going to be straight all the time. So I just make sure I'm right on my line. You can never have too many clamps, they say. I've heard it 100 times, and now that I'm a woodworker, I live it every single day. I am going to invest in a lot more clamps because the few that I have are becoming fewer as these projects become more frequent, which I'm very grateful for. So once that is all clamped up, I just want to make sure that I get screws and everything. It's nice and tight. These are probably overkill. I may not need this many, but I like over-engineering things. I want this to last forever. And now that it's screwed and with the clamps out of the way, I obsessively check it for square once again. It's always nice to know that it's square before the glue dries. As you can tell, most of cabinet making is just gluing and screwing things. I have these nifty clamps that actually go into the pocket hole itself. I'm going to use a little spacer that's the same width as my toe kick to make sure that everything is staying nice and level or square. And then have it clamped in place. As I said, pocket holes or pocket screws have a tendency to walk sometimes. So I just want to make sure everything is clamped in place before I get it screwed in. And then as I screw it, it doesn't walk on me. The base of this cabinet is open cubbies. So what I have done is measured out where each of those is going to go. You can see the lines there. And from the top, I'm making the pilot holes just so I know where they will be. It's going to be a lot easier to find them when I flip this over. I want to screw this in from the bottom so the screws are hidden, and I'm going to do what's called countersinking the holes. I'll show you what that means a little later in this video. But I have a countersink bit on my drill, so from here I'm making a kind of a bevel so that the screw will fit nice and flush inside and hold nice and tight. Once I have all those, I know that all my screws are going to line up. Again, everything's gluing and screwing, so I go back through, get my glue. I'll probably throw some clamps on here, and from there it's all just flipping it around, probably awkwardly, and trying to get them, awkwardly. Luckily I'm tall, But I also did this so you can see what I'm doing. And once those are all screwed in, the glue dries, these are there forever. For now, I put the base aside while those were drying, and I've moved to the top portion where the coat closets are going to go. You can see that's the side piece there that has the dado where the back panel will eventually slide into. Using my handy dandy clamps, I get that put in place, make sure everything's nice and flush. If you'll notice, there's a board just the thickness of the 3/4 inch that I had mentioned before, the height of the dado, that's keeping that bottom piece in place. That way I don't have to try to have a third hand and finagle it while I'm putting the clamps on. The clamps help, but any little second hand stuff that I can use certainly helps. And it just makes sure everything's flush. So I cut that to match that dado perfectly. And once that's all clamped and screwed, I've just got to move around the whole piece until it's done, which is awkward because this, I believe the measurement of the top piece, it's 62 inches tall. The total piece is about 86 inches tall once it's sitting on the base. So it's a lot of, it was a huge, huge piece. There we go. You can see it now. I clamped it to the bench because now I'm kind of cantilevering off the side. Using another spacer, I'm going to balance that or clamp that right where the dado meets the bottom there. And this is going to act as another pair of hands for me as well. You really get creative when you work alone. And there's the piece. That's going to be the top piece there. And you'll see what I mean. I've created that little shelf. Now I can rest on there. I'm hands free. Little thumbs up. And same as before. On the back side, you can't see it, but that's where you can see that I'm using the pocket hole clamps. And that gets screwed in right there. I'm going to measure across this diagonally to make sure that it's square, but I'll do that later. That's one of the top shelf divider pieces. I'm just marking out where those are going to go. I'm going to do the same thing I did for the bottom and do a pilot hole through the side, that side, and then come back around and countersink all of those holes. So this is what I mean by countersink. I'm going to drill a hole here. And this is just a scrap piece of wood. So just a basic hole, probably 3/16. I have a regular beveled wood screw. I'm sorry, it's a little blurry. That's a little better. But you can see it sits proud of the top. So what I want to do is I want to countersink that. So this is a countersink bit. It's got a little bevel drill on it. And that makes a bit of a hole, or widens the hole a little bit and gives it kind of a flute or a bevel to it. So when I put the screw in, the screw now sits below the surface of the wood, sits nice and flush. And if I want to come back, if this was ever going to be seen, I could put wood filler in that or a plug and you'd never see it. So back to the piece itself. Now that all my holes are drilled, I need to put the spacers in. But again, being only one person, I need more support. So I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to be having these, I don't know, little brackets, I guess you could call them, put in. And this is going to help hold the piece in place. I'm going to make sure this side piece I'm working on now is nice and square. And then it'll sit right on that bottom piece. Do the same for the other side. And once that's done, I will get the divider. Again, got to get some glue on it. Love the glue. The amount of glue that I go through, it's always something you have to remember to figure into your projects. It doesn't seem like much, but you can easily go through 1/3 of a gallon or more, even just on a piece like this. Well, maybe not that much, but it's a lot of glue. But you can see it's holding it nice. I'll check for square again. I don't show it here, but I obsessively check for square all the time before the glue is dry. It's bit me before by not checking and something was just slightly out of square and it kind of messes things up. So there are 3 dividers going in here to make 4 cubbies, and those will eventually have doors that hold jackets on them. And I just go right down the line. Editing makes things look so easy. I made this spacer. This is a 12-inch spacer. The cabinets from top to bottom, or the cubbies from top to bottom, are 12 inches. I think from the width is somewhere around 14 inches, I want to say, or 18 inches. And this spacer is just going to make sure I don't have to measure every single time. I put the spacer in, put the the divider right up to it, and now I know my measurements are going to be exact. And I'll bring it down low as well so that all four corners, before I screw and glue them in, are in the exact same spot. It really helps free up my hands and speed up this process. And I'm going to want to repeat that all the way down this row, because there are 4 dividers going into each of these cubbies. So once again, I don't think I actually glued these in, because putting glue on these and then trying to fit it in the space, I'm going to smear glue down the finished face of this. So these did just get screws. They're not very big though, so I wasn't worried about too much structural integrity being lost by not gluing them. So as I said, that spacer is going to come in handy with this. It makes that measurement exactly the same all the way down the line. So here I am setting up a stop block. And I made this miter saw specifically to have a stop block so I can make repeat cuts without having to make measurement after measurement after measurement. If you want to see how I made this, there is a video earlier on, one of my earlier videos when I was building the shop, on how to make this miter station. So that stop block is in a T-track, and it gets tightened in place once I know my measurement is absolutely exact. You can see I brought the blade down on the saw, and I'm measuring directly off of that. Now this is a piece of poplar, and this is actually, we're starting to make the doors. So I have got my measurement for the doors, and in order to get the most out of all my pieces, I've measured out where all the different pieces are coming from. I'll be making what's called stiles and rails. The size of this piece looks as though it's going to be the rail, which would mean that it's the piece that goes across the top and bottom. And then the stiles will be the pieces on the side of the cabinet that come down, and then a panel gets put in between those. And you'll see that as this process goes together. I'll put a video together at some point on how to just specifically from start to finish make doors. But you can see I've got the exact measurement, both sides, perfect. Now I just got to repeat it. Once I've got all my pieces cut to size, there we go, the 2 1/4 stiles and rails. So that just means that I have my saw set to 2 1/4 inches, and all my stiles and rails are going to be 2 1/4. You can make them smaller or bigger, it depends on your preference. For the size of these doors, 2 1/4 seemed like it was going to be the best. I did that for all my kitchen cabinets as well. Sped it up a little bit here. So longer doors, still 2 1/4. These are going to be for the stiles of those doors. I like using my push sticks because, again, this saw does not care about my fingers. One thing you don't want to do that's actually bad practice is reaching over the blade like I'm doing. I'm going to teach you the right way to do it. Learn your bad habits in the field on your own. So I made a different stop block here, that blue piece. Maybe I'll put something together on that one as well someday. But my stop block only goes so far, so if I have smaller measurements, I needed something that could extend out over the metal part of the table for the saw. So I put this together with some T-track and whatnot, and it's been working great. And I gave it a little blue color just because I had some blue paint. Why not? Why not make it a little decorative? So again, just making repeat cuts for all my these look like they will be for the rails as well. They could be stiles for the upper doors because those, as I said, those doors are only 12 inches tall by, I do want to say it was 18 inches wide for those top cubbies, which would mean the bottom cubbies are also 18 inches wide if you're interested in measuring. Then I like to give them a little stand up, make sure nothing moved, happy little thumbs up, and we're onto the router table. To set this router bit up, I'll put a router table or using a router table video together at some point. But what I've done is I've measured 1/8 inch from the top there. I've put it on my little sled, adjusted the bit. This is cutting the tenons on this on the stile and rails, and this is a special bit, creates a little bit of a bevel, nice little decorative thing. You can kind of see it there. But that is the cut that this bit is making. We're going to run all the rails through this, both sides of it, and we want to make sure that when you're flipping it, you're not accidentally turning it the wrong way. Again, I'll make a video about this. There is a video coming out hopefully next week on how I built this router table. It's something I've been meaning to put out for quite some time, but I have it edited. I am going to voice that over after I'm done voicing this one over, and it should be out hopefully next week. And I'll talk a lot about changing out bits and things in that video as well. So what this is going to do, this one is going to match the bevel that's going to be on the front of the cabinets. And you see that I'm lining it up with the tenon that I made with the first bit. This is also going to cut the groove that's going to accept the panel that we're going to put in these doors later on. It's a 1/4-inch panel. And once that is set up, I'm always running a test piece through. I don't want to put my original stock through first. So you can see I've already run this piece through before. I want it to be dialed in just right. And I'm going to tell you, when I did this with my kitchen cabinets, I did not have the type of router that you can raise from under the table, so it really made this process slow. This took 1 or 2 tries to really dial it in just perfectly like I have here, and away I went. So I'm really happy with the investments that I've made into my shop. We run every single piece through the mortising joint, I guess you would call it, or the mortising bit. This is cutting the groove, as I said, and every single piece, the stiles and the rails get that, where the rails are the only ones that get the tenon cut into the ends. Once everything is cut up, it's all about gluing. I'm not using any other fasteners on these doors, no nails, screws, or anything else. It's strictly going to be glue, and that should be more than enough to hold these for years upon years to come. And if I'm using a solid wood, I would not be putting any glue into where the panel goes. Solid wood is going to float. It expands and contracts with temperature, barometric pressure, seasons, things like that. Plywood is pretty stable, or if I were using MDF plywood, it's very stable. It doesn't expand and contract. It does a little, but very minimally, so it's not going to warp my door. So I like it because it adds extra strength to the glue up. So I want to get everything glued, as I said. And once everything is glued, this is where needing more clamps has definitely become an issue. I took a chance and clamped them up, but I needed those clamps for the next bit of doors. I suppose I could have waited, but instead of waiting, I let the glue dry for, I don't know, enough for it to get tacky, which is, again, dangerous. It could separate. These mortise and tenon joints, though, are pretty tight and almost hold themselves together without glue. So I wasn't too worried, but I highly recommend to you and to my future self, buy more clamps and just make the space, get everything clamped up. But again, that's something that I need to invest in and have not yet. You may have noticed that one thing that makes my life easier working alone are these types of clamps that you just ratchet closed with a little trigger. I have a lot of other clamps that I can twist shut, and those work great as well. I do those especially for some larger glue ups with my pipe clamps. These that have the little trigger and just ratchets them close. Oh, I would be lost without them, especially, like I said, working alone. You need 2, 3, 4 hands sometimes to get this together. With one door complete, I move on to the other 3, and then it's on to the 4 large doors. And they go together the same, just a little bit bigger, that's all. Want to glue up the tenons, fit those into the mortise. Now, the nice thing about getting your router and doing all the prep work and setting everything up just right is normally when I put these together, there's very little squaring up to actually do. The tenons and the mortise and tenon joint will really hold itself together if it's put together properly. So I'm obviously going to double and triple check just to make sure that everything is square. I don't take it for granted that it is, but like I said, a little bit of prep work goes a long way. So I'll check it with a traditional carpenter's square just to make sure everything lines up right. But I am going to measure from corner to corner as well. That really just gives me the final double check that everything is square. And I'll do that once I clamp it, because if I clamp it and something moves, now I'll know. Like as I said, I don't take anything for granted or that anything is square until I have double and triple checked it. And even then, sometimes when things are drying, they'll move on you. It's just, unfortunately, the nature of the beast. Usually, though, everything goes pretty nice.
And these are obviously not the ratcheting clamps that I have. I've got all my ratcheting clamps on my small doors off camera. So I have a few old school twist threaded ones to go together. And this is what I mean by measuring corner to corner. As long as that measurement from one end to the other is the same, we're right on. And it was. Once that's done, it is the dreaded sanding. I do find this somewhat relaxing. I just usually put a book on and or an audiobook and I just listen to a book while I sand for hours. I do a lot of hand sanding as well. This is probably 220 grit. Once I did 120 grit with the palm sander, I want to just get it nice and smooth, get a real nice finish. This is going to drill the holes for the hinges. These are recessed hidden hinges. So I bought this from Craig. You can probably tell because it's blue if you're in the know. Plus it says Craig on it, so I guess that's a dead giveaway too. Duh. Um, so I've measured out where I want my hole. I think it was 3.5 inches up from the edge. There's a little centering line on there. This will kind of clamp right into place there, and it drills a 1/2 inch deep hole. There's a stopper on the drill bit that I made sure I set up. I've got my vacuum there just to kind of keep the mess down because it does make a mess. Um, and that just drills a recess. Once that's out of the way, I'll show you what I mean. And these are, I bought soft close hinges, just meaning that it won't slam shut. It kind of gently draws the door closed. And this jig helps me set that up. So once that's the stopper that I was talking about. So that'll set the depth of the hole. And you may need to adjust that depending on what hinges you got. I did have to adjust this one. Then there are these tiny little 16-inch holes. Those drill the pilot bit and give you a guide on where the holes that are going to hold this hinge in place are going to go. So once that's unclamped, you can see that it's all nice and neat. And I can make this repetitive with that nice jig. It was well worth the money. It wasn't much, and it pays for itself within like one hinge, I swear to God. So these are the hinges that I was talking about. These are going to be inset doors, meaning that they sit inside the frame. They don't sit on the frame. I want to just keep repeating this process through all the doors. The bottom doors, these tall doors, get 3 hinges, one on top and bottom and one in the middle. This is going to help keep it from warping, give it a little extra support. They're not heavy, but that little extra is recommended usually by the manufacturer as having 3 hinges. And much like sanding, it's a very repetitive process. So I'll throw on music or an audiobook in my earmuffs there. I think, if I remember right, I took on a classic for this one, and I was reading The Swiss Family Robinson. I remember watching it as a kid, thought it was great. Book itself, I could give or take it. I don't want to do a book review here, but if you love it, great. I am just glad didn't sit and read it and that it was just an audiobook. But as you see, I'm going to get all the hinges put on the doors, and then once those are done, I will move on to the hardware that is going to hold them into the cabinet, because these are separate hinges. These will actually snap into hardware in the cabinet itself, which you'll see right here. I want to do my pre-drill. I've already measured out. I spared you some of the measuring, but I do a little bit of pre-drill. I want to make sure I don't drill all the way through. Usually it's a good idea to put a piece of tape to set your depth of your drill bit. I did not do that. I took a chance, and it worked out this time. I just wanted to do a little bit of a pre-drill. It accepts the screws a lot better, but this is the hardware I was talking about. The hinges themselves will clip into the front, and then they spring snap on the back. So if I want to take them out, which I did for transport, I could just undo them and set them aside, wrap them up nice and neat. And then when I got on site, unwrap them all, snapped them in place. I set them up. You can adjust their depth and their height. So I did all that before delivering it, and in a nice controlled environment. And that way I don't have to take up a lot of time at the client's home setting these all up. So once I had them all set, I made sure I put a number in kind of a non-seen spot under the bottom hinge for these. That way I knew which door went where, and I just numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4 from left to right. I should mention that I did not tighten the hardware inside the cabinet. I want it to be kind of floating, that way I can adjust the height once the door is in place. And with 3 hinges, it's really hard to line all of them up exactly. So with those still being able to kind of float a little bit, they give you a little bit of space to raise up and down. That allowed me to get the hinges on pretty easily. Then I can go back through, and I use just a hand screwdriver to tighten them down. And you can see the nice gentle close. The hinges get put on once on site. The client is going to buy them, and I'm going to drill them and put them on in place. And there are some adjustments on the hinges themselves that allow them to move in and out, as well as, like I said, up and down. I've already adjusted the height. Now I want to adjust the face so that it sits nice and flush. And all 3 hinges have that adjustment, so it allows me to make it just perfect. Once everything is built, the last thing to do is paint. I didn't cover any of the priming, but as you can see, everything is primed first. I highly recommend getting a good cabinet based or cabinet grade primer and good cabinet paint. You really don't want to cut costs on the finish. It really makes a difference. It took a long time, so one of my next investments is going to be a sprayer and hopefully a place to do it. Once the paint had some time to dry, it was time for me to figure out where I wanted the coat hooks. There wasn't a real hard, fast rule. I just felt around a little bit to where it would be comfortable to hang up a coat and went there. If you remember, I made the dados on the back come in 3/4 of an inch. That was to accept this support piece. That's 3/4 of an inch, and I'm screwing the coat hook into that. Everything else is just 1/4 inch plywood, so they would rip right out if I didn't have that in place. With the coat hooks in place, that was the end of the project. I did get a little picky because I am a perfectionist and went around with some more touch-up paint just to make sure the blemishes were taken care of, but I was done.
And that's it. Came out really well. I'm really happy with it. I'm looking forward to see what they think about it. Today is Wednesday, tomorrow's New Year's Day, so Friday I get to deliver my first piece. And something that makes that even more special is my friend Phil is meeting me at his parents' house, and we're gonna carry this in together. It's in multiple pieces, so once it's apart, it's not heavy, it's just bulky, and there's no way that I can get this in by myself. So thankfully, you know, the first piece that I'm putting in is for a friend and his family. So that took a lot of pressure off. All I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pull all the doors off, as you saw in the video. If I can find an edge here. Ugh. The hinges come off with these with the hooks there and snap right back in. So I'm gonna pull all the doors off, wrap them individually, and those will be protected. The top, I'm gonna wrap the corners, and I've got some plastic wrap that I'm gonna wrap everything. The thing is, the delivery is an hour away, so there's still a chance things can go wrong, but I'm confident, I'm hoping. But we've had some weather up here in Maine, a lot of ice, so we'll see. I just wanna get it protected. I don't have a closed trailer. I have an open trailer and an open bed to my truck, so I'm gonna wrap this up. It's gonna to keep it protected. The crown molding on top, comes right off. Right now it's just kind of pressure fit on there. I wanted that separate because when I get to the location, I want to fit that nice and tight to the ceiling and then attach it accordingly. Do a couple little fills, bring some touch-up paint, and call it good. The top and the base are separate from each other, so it should go in pretty easy, especially with some help from my friend. But that's all that is really left to do. I guess that's what I wanted to say for today. So happy 2026. If you're just starting it like I am, I hope your year goes absolutely amazing. If you've made some resolutions, I wish you luck with them. Stick with them. If I'm an example for you, like I said, a year ago I was miserable, and now I'm living my best life. So hope you can too. If you're further in the future and you've just come to this 2025/26 video, I hope you've been having a great life, and I hope today is going well for you. So until I see you again, here's an old joke. I'll see you next year. Sorry, That was bad. Do I end on that? I'm gonna end on that. Happy New Year, everybody. Bye.